Thank you for your interest in the draft Cairnsmore Sustainable Neighborhood Plan review process. My name's Jana, and we're creating this video to share highlights about the draft plan. We really appreciate you taking the time to participate in this process. The Cairnsmore Sustainable Neighborhood Plan journey began in 2018 with the first phase that focused on understanding the area, including what's working well and what needs to be improved, and talking with the community about their ideas for the future. The second phase of the process was about developing and testing ideas, creating a vision and key directions for Cairnsmore, and investigating the policies and actions that could help achieve these directions over time. The community participated in reviewing emerging directions to help identify those that work well and others that might need refinement. Phase 3, where we are now, has been about refining the key directions and developing the detailed and technical policy to help put them into action. We're now at a stage of reviewing the draft Cairnsmore Sustainable Neighbourhood Plan and looking for your feedback on refined directions and identifying the final revisions needed to complete the plan. The outcome of this process will be a neighbourhood plan that focuses community policy at the neighbourhood level. A neighbourhood plan serves two primary purposes. First, it allows us to look at what could be improved and to put together a wish list of these potential improvements. For example, addition of parks and trails, safety improvements, beautification of our streets, and so on. Identifying these tangible projects allows the city to make plans and secure funding in order to complete desired improvements over time. Second, a neighborhood plan allows us to be prepared for new development and direct it so it supports our neighborhood vision. We can't predict exactly when a new development might come forward, or a landowner may wish to make a change on their property, but we can have policy and guidelines in place so when that happens, the city is able to evaluate proposed changes and make decisions that help ensure positive change. To do this, a neighborhood plan provides direction on many topics that contribute to a neighborhood: land use, commercial uses, built form and character, the mobility network, green spaces, well-being, heritage, and infrastructure. Cairnsmore is a unique neighborhood in the city of Duncan. Located in the north corner, it's situated between the municipality of North Cowichan to the north and west, and Duncan's Centennial Heights and downtown neighborhoods to the south and east. With subdivision dating back to the early 1900s, Cairnsmore has a rich inventory of heritage and character homes. The neighborhood is anchored by a small neighborhood commercial node at the corner of Cairnsmore and Government Streets and is close to a number of employment centers including the Cowichan District Hospital, Vancouver Island University, and downtown Duncan. Its collection of institutional uses and essential local businesses make Cairnsmore a desirable neighborhood. A key theme throughout the entire process has been ensuring that this comfortable neighborhood-scale character is retained. This is reflected in the vision and key directions for Cairnsmore. Together, these directions guide the policies and actions in the Cairnsmore Sustainable Neighbourhood Plan, as well as decisions about future opportunities or ideas that could arise. Together, the Cairnsmore neighbourhood has created the following vision. In the future, Cairnsmore is a close-knit community where residents live, work, and play through all stages of their lives. The Cairnsmore neighborhood commercial node is expanded to include more local-scale businesses intermixed with established institutional uses. Businesses are supported by high-quality mixed housing centered around inclusive gathering destinations and connected by pedestrian and cycling routes. The node attracts positive activity, creating a welcoming atmosphere. Mature trees and large lots continue to form the backdrop to unique single-family character homes that celebrate the area's early 1900s architectural heritage, with new, appropriately scaled housing options artfully woven into the community fabric. Sustainable infrastructure supports growth and change. In the future, Cairnsmore is an affordable, safe, and healthy neighborhood. The vision is supported by 10 key directions that provide more context. The key directions have been refined from the guiding principles that were reviewed during the previous engagement. The policies within the plan are guided by these directions. The first is a strong and local neighborhood commercial node. Through the process, we heard that the local grocery and coffee shop are valued parts of Cairnsmore, and there is a desire to build on these through more small-scale local businesses as long as they fit with the neighborhood and don't compete with the downtown. A key theme throughout was that car-oriented and franchise-style businesses are not suitable for this area. The plan supports a strong and local neighborhood commercial node by focusing all new commercial and mixed-use development within the neighborhood commercial node and providing policies to support local-scale commercial while limiting car-oriented commercial. The plan also provides actions for creating welcoming public open spaces in this area, ensuring ground floor shops that connect with Cairnsmore Street, and attractive streetscapes that are more walkable and bikeable. The second key direction is creating more housing diversity near the neighborhood commercial node. During this process, we did hear that residents want to remain in the neighborhood through all life stages, and there is a need for housing that can support this. It's also well known that having more people living near a commercial area is important to supporting businesses and creating an active and safe environment. However, we also heard concerns that large-scale apartments can affect neighborhood character, and there have been challenges with higher density options in the past. A constant theme is that the scale and design quality are fundamental considerations for new multifamily housing in Cairnsmore. Anything new needs to be a positive contribution to this neighborhood. The plan supports more housing diversity near the neighborhood commercial node by encouraging housing variety that supports all types of residents, including older adults, young people, and lower income individuals. This focus means that most of the neighborhood can remain dedicated to lower density uses that are valued and important to the area. A fundamental component of the plan are design directions that require all new development or redevelopment to meet consistently high quality standards and be sensitive to the scale and character of the surrounding area, regardless of who will live in the spaces. The third key direction is sensitive renewal and infill throughout the neighborhood. We heard that owners in Cairnsmore typically take pride in maintaining attractive homes, and the larger lots with more moderately sized homes helps protect mature trees and contribute to a green neighborhood. There were strong opinions that any new development in the neighborhood should fit with the character and scale of existing homes, and that this lower density residential character is important to protect. The uniqueness and variety seen in Cairnsmore is important, and extensive subdivision of existing lots was a concern for participants in the process. As seen in the previous direction, the draft plan focuses higher density uses at the neighborhood commercial node in order to maintain lower densities in all other areas. The plan does encourage secondary suites or carriage homes as a way to sensitively add housing options in low density areas while maintaining existing character. The plan encourages property owners to renovate rather than demolish existing homes and guides new development to respect the scale and form of the neighborhood. The plan also encourages landscaped yards with permeable surfaces, gardens, and trees. The fourth key direction is celebration of heritage and character. The community emphasized a desire to celebrate First Nations heritage and to work with the communities to identify how this can be achieved. The community also valued the architectural heritage of the area and noted that preservation of heritage buildings, sites, and features is important. It was suggested that new developments should be complementary to heritage elements, yet flexible enough to support innovation and modern interpretation. The draft plan encourages engagement with Cowichan tribes to identify opportunities to integrate art, language, and culture into planning and design wherever possible. It also encourages the city to consider developing a city-wide heritage framework to provide more certainty and support for preserving heritage architecture. Finally, the plan supports redevelopment focused on retention and adaptive reuse of buildings with heritage elements and supports voluntary efforts for heritage identification and preservation. The fifth key direction is a connected neighborhood with many mobility options. We have heard that Cairnsmore should be more pedestrian and cycle-friendly. The close proximity of the neighborhood to downtown Duncan and destinations like VIU, the hospital, and schools make it a strong candidate for walkability. However, these networks are not as well developed as they could be yet. We also heard that the routes and schedules for transit to and from the neighborhood are quite limited, and so most residents do not utilize transit for their daily needs. There are concerns in the neighborhood about speeding and cutting through the neighborhood, and the Cairnsmore government intersection is notably problematic. There are also concerns that new development both in Cairnsmore and in North Cowichan will increase traffic problems in the area. The draft plan emphasizes a connected neighborhood by identifying priority active transportation routes for future investment and identifying priority intersections and street crossings to make walking safer and more comfortable. The plan also identifies opportunities to better connect the neighborhood to local, city, and regional destinations and provides recommendations for streetscape enhancements on all Cairnsmore streets to increase comfort for all users. A related key direction, number 6, is focused on creating beautiful, functional, complete streets for people. This direction acknowledges that the road right-of-way is a fundamental piece of public space in a neighborhood, and it needs to do more than simply convey vehicles. Public input indicated that streets in Cairnsmore should be pleasant, attractive, and safe for everyone, regardless of how they're using the street. There is a desire for more street trees and furnishings, and traffic calming that makes pedestrian safety a priority. The draft plan outlines an approach to complete streets in Cairnsmore and identifies opportunities to capitalize on the road right-of-way as an attractive and usable public open space. It identifies locations where right-of-way expansion may be needed to achieve community goals and addresses safety concerns and problematic intersections, including recommending a roundabout at the Cairnsmore and Government intersection. The plan also requires that new development address the street and contribute to a pleasant pedestrian experience, and includes recommendations for street tree planting throughout the neighborhood. The 7th key direction, respect and renewal of the urban forest, recognizes that mature trees are a character-defining element of Cairnsmore. We heard concerns that large trees could be lost during future changes, reducing the overall tree canopy in the neighborhood. There was support for addition of new trees for ongoing renewal of the tree canopy, and a public interest for incorporating more fruit trees to provide local food security. The draft plan recommends increasing measures for protecting existing mature trees on private lands and developing a strong tree replacement strategy. The plan also includes recommendations for growing the urban forest, including adding new trees in public spaces, new development, and streetscapes. The plan recommends education and incentives to help build understanding about the value of trees in the neighborhood and to encourage residents to voluntarily maintain existing and plant new trees. The 8th key direction is about creating a neighborhood for people. Cairnsmore already has this, and throughout the process we heard a strong desire for more spaces and opportunities for the neighborhood to come together. We heard many ideas for efficient use of existing social spaces and suggestions to make the neighborhood even more accessible and inclusive. We heard a strong desire to embrace and build the area's arts and culture presence, but then we also heard concerns about safety and negative activities in the neighborhood and a need to address the impacts of negative behaviors. The draft plan includes directions to maximize sharing and use of existing public and private facilities and open spaces, as well as consideration for new parks and plazas associated with the neighborhood commercial node. The plan includes design directions for architectural design that provides passive surveillance and promotes crime prevention through environmental design and safe design principles. The plan also supports initiatives for arts and culture, encourages resident-led initiatives and events, and promotes an active neighborhood network that supports and watches out for one another. The 9th key direction is about working towards a greener future. Input demonstrated support for adaptation of existing homes to increase efficiency and encouraging all new development to achieve higher sustainability standards. The draft plan supports this by setting maximum impervious areas for sites to help reduce runoff and support natural groundwater recharge, requiring new development to meet a minimum of Step 3 of the BC Energy Step Code, encouraging building design that considers passive heating, cooling, and lighting design principles, and requiring new buildings to be designed in a way that supports future adaptation to emerging sustainable technologies. The final key direction is related to efficient and updated infrastructure. Utilities and services are the bones of a neighborhood, mostly hidden from view beneath the ground, but vitally important for keeping the neighborhood alive and operating. The water, sanitary, stormwater, and solid waste systems are core to a sustainable neighborhood and the health and well-being of the people who live there. Public input supports ongoing transition to more sustainable infrastructure over time. The draft neighborhood plan provides important land use information so the city can effectively plan for road and utility upgrades to meet community needs as the neighborhood evolves and requires new development to provide appropriate investments into this network. The plan also requires new development to use design that helps reduce rainwater runoff, water consumption, waste generation, and energy consumption to reduce pressures on the infrastructure networks. The plan also includes integrated stormwater management directions and street lighting directions. Together, The 10 key directions align with the vision and inform all of the more detailed policies and directions contained in the draft neighborhood plan. For the remainder of this presentation, we'll touch on some of these key policies and guidelines, notably those that have been updated based on previous feedback. A key part of a neighborhood plan is identifying appropriate future land uses for properties in the neighborhood. The land use plan helps describe how a neighborhood could evolve over time if and when property owners choose to make changes. The land use plan shown here has been refined based on previous community feedback. There are 5 types of land uses proposed for Cairnsmore. The main one is low-density residential throughout the majority of the neighborhood in order to preserve the existing neighborhood character. The plan also includes a new land use called transitional low-medium density residential to provide a comfortable transition between lower and higher density uses. Medium density residential areas are located closer to the neighborhood commercial node and downtown areas. At the neighborhood commercial node itself, there is a cluster of commercial mixed use. And finally, there are a number of existing institutional uses throughout the neighborhood. Looking a bit closer at each of the uses, we'll start with the neighborhood commercial mixed use. Neighborhood commercial mixed uses will be focused within the neighborhood commercial node at the corner of Government and Cairnsmore, creating a focal point for neighborhood scale services, amenities, and jobs, with multifamily residential uses integrated above commercial uses. The ground floor of mixed-use buildings will have an active commercial streetscape that generates foot traffic and pedestrian interest, such as retail stores, food and drink establishments, personal services, and medical services. These are places where you might get your hair cut, pick up your supper for the evening, or meet friends for a cup of coffee. The land use supports the addition of residential uses above the first floor in order to support more people living in this area and providing housing options that are well suited to people who may want to live within walking distance of their local services. In Cairnsmore, medium-density residential will provide a range of apartment, townhouse, and houseplex styles located within walking distance of commercial areas and providing a range of housing options with high-quality design and open spaces. Sensitively incorporating medium-density residential options supports regional and city goals for accommodating growth, increases housing options in the neighborhood, and helps maintain low density in other established areas. The design and scale of medium density will be of utmost importance, ensuring that the spaces where buildings meet the street are attractive, and that parking is contained behind or beneath the structures. This use also makes space for potential live-work units to be considered on the ground floor, allowing suitable independent businesses like offices or artist studios while respecting the more residential nature of these areas. A key concern we heard in the previous engagement is the relationship and scale between low-density residential areas and higher-density areas. The draft plan introduces a transitional low-medium density residential land use that provides a flexible transition between higher intensity uses, including mixed use and medium density, and low-density residential areas to create a more thoughtful transition. The key criteria for these units is that they'll be ground-oriented, meaning residents will access individual units from the ground floor, and they are limited to 2.5 stories in height. Design of new transitional land uses will require consideration of adjacent residential areas to protect existing homes. This land use would also support consideration for live-work units where appropriate. The low-density residential land use remains the primary land use in Cairnsmore. These areas are an important component of Cairnsmore's character and as such will continue to be the dominant land use form for the lifetime of this plan, about 60% of developable land in the neighborhood. This land use will include a mix of single-family, duplex, and secondary suites that maintain the existing Cairnsmore character. The plan discourages subdivision that requires variances to lot frontage or depths that contradict the principles of maintaining green space, heritage, and trees. Accessory dwellings are encouraged in low-density residential areas that have single-unit dwellings as a means of increasing housing options and supporting affordability without compromising character. The plan also provides guidance that new or renovated homes should be appropriately sized to retain trees on lots. Massive homes that dominate the lot, landscape, and street are not the intention of this designation. The final land use in Cairnsmore is institutional. Institutional uses are a key part of Cairnsmore, bringing employment and activity to the area. These spaces have an important role to play in creating neighborhood for people. Opportunities to link these spaces to the public realm will help facilitate connections and a feeling of community. The plan requires that redevelopment or expansion of education or civic sites should incorporate publicly accessible open spaces and semi-private spaces that encourage social interaction in the neighborhood. A key part of the draft plan is a proposal for a future neighborhood commercial node that builds on the existing commercial area by renewing and adding local commercial opportunities, incorporating new, high-quality multifamily residential, increasing pedestrian comfort, and strategically adding public open space. The draft plan includes an updated neighborhood commercial node concept to illustrate ideas for this area. What is shown here is a concept only. Actual future development will be based on property owner proposals with input from the community. The directions shown here have been updated and refined to reflect public input from the previous engagement. Highlights of the concept include enhancements to the existing medium-density residential uses near the neighborhood commercial node, future medium-density residential oriented towards College Street with a strong facade and streetscape improvements and a density and scale that are suitable to the residential nature of the area. The concept also imagines, in the long term, that the vehicle-oriented commercial at the corner of College and Government will eventually transition to a more local-scale commercial mixed use. There is planned to be an improved College Street streetscape with street trees and sidewalks. A new roundabout is proposed with a central feature that marks the entrance to the Cairnsmore neighborhood and will improve the Cairnsmore and Government Street intersection. From the roundabout, a new road will extend to provide entry and exit to Queen Margaret School and access to residential properties. The road right-of-way along Government Street will be widened to incorporate complete street enhancements including street trees, bike lanes, and wide sidewalks. This will support mixed-use local commercial with residential above, oriented to both Government and Cairnsmore streets. The concept also shows the idea of a covered plaza space with seating and meeting space associated with new mixed-use development, providing a place for neighborhood residents to meet and gather in any weather. Tucked behind the mixed-use residential areas, there will be access to underground residential parking with some limited surface parking for commercial uses. At the south end of the area, an improved streetscape could include a feature that marks entry into Cairnsmore from the south. The existing portion of lane that exits onto Herbert Street is recommended to be closed in order to help reduce traffic conflicts at the Government and Herbert Street intersection. A new lane network is proposed to be developed in the heart of the neighborhood commercial node to provide access to parking behind and beneath buildings and to provide a pleasant mixed environment that supports shared vehicle, cyclist, and pedestrian access. In the central part of the neighborhood commercial node, a new park space is created with uses like children's playground and open space, creating Cairnsmore's very own neighborhood park. The streetscape along Cairnsmore Street will be enhanced to become a pleasant pedestrian-oriented environment that includes extensive street trees, bike lanes, on-street parking, and wide sidewalks that accommodate furnishings and activities from adjacent businesses. Transitional low-medium density residential uses, including houseplexes or townhouses up to 2.5 stories high, provide a stepped transition from the mixed uses in the neighborhood commercial node to adjacent low-density residential areas, and also provide opportunities for live and work. Finally, with School District 79 and Cowichan Valley Open Learning Co-op, collaborative improvements along Cairnsmore Street frontage of Duncan Elementary could be explored to better utilize underused areas, enhance community recreation, or consider potential for future mixed or community uses, and connect the school to the neighborhood commercial node. If done well, the neighborhood commercial node is poised to become an even stronger heart to the Cairnsmore neighborhood. In addition to the sections highlighted above, the draft Cairnsmore Sustainable Neighborhood Plan includes a number of additional policies, actions, and recommendations. These topics were explored in depth and generally were well supported during the previous public engagement. The City of Duncan is committed to addressing climate change, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, reducing energy and water consumption, and preparing for a more resilient future. Developing green buildings and sites is an important component of a rounded approach to reducing the community's environmental footprint. The Cairnsmore Sustainable Neighbourhood Plan includes guidelines for new development in the neighbourhood to ensure it is being designed and built thoughtfully with critical considerations to energy conservation, water conservation, and rainwater management. Built heritage tells stories of a place's history and provides a visual history for future generations. The Cairnsmore neighbourhood represents an era in Duncan's development as a city, and as such, care is warranted to preserve and celebrate this history. The plan includes recommendations for a city-wide heritage framework and specific recommendations for Cairnsmore, including retention and adaptive reuse of buildings, sensitive building additions or conversions, and flexibility in site planning, building form, massing, parking, and other regulatory requirements in order to maintain heritage values. Cairnsmore's mobility network helps people connect both within and beyond the neighbourhood boundaries. Safe, attractive, and convenient connections that help residents, students, employees, and visitors get where they need to go in a way that works for them is a priority. Because Cairnsmore already has an established street network, the focus of much of this plan is on enhancing this network to better accommodate all modes of transportation. The plan includes an extensive set of active transportation network recommendations. Residents of Cairnsmore, as well as residents in surrounding areas, rely on the road network that runs through Cairnsmore. Growth in the neighbourhood and the municipality of North Cowichan means that more people will need to be getting around the area. The draft plan includes several vehicle mobility recommendations to address existing issues in Cairnsmore, including congestion and safety concerns at the Cairnsmore and Government Street intersection, traffic volumes and speeds on Cairnsmore Street, Government Street, and Jubilee Street, use of local residential streets such as Herbert Street to cut through the neighbourhood, safety at the Cavell and Cairnsmore Street intersection, which is now a two-way stop, and consideration about how traffic affects institutional uses in or near Cairnsmore, such as schools, daycares, and health centres, and how these uses increase traffic at key times, for example, congestion that occurs at the start and end of the school day. Streets not only provide spaces for safe movement of people and goods, they play a fundamental role in the character and experience of a neighbourhood. Everyone living in Cairnsmore interacts with the street, whether driving, cycling, walking, or viewing it from their homes. Great streets are memorable and define the experience and character of an area. The draft plan provides street typologies that summarize the streetscape elements and improvement features recommended for each street in the neighbourhood. It is intended that these typologies will be integrated into the city's future transportation planning so that when road upgrades are completed, the result are beautiful multimodal streets for this neighbourhood. More and more green spaces are being recognized as vital components to quality of life. A well-developed green network protects nature, provides services like stormwater management, and promotes public health and well-being. The draft plan includes recommendations for maintaining and enhancing the urban forest and securing usable public green space for the future of the neighbourhood. Cairnsmore is already a neighbourhood where people stop to talk on the street. Maintaining and growing this sense of community is important to the intangible element that makes a neighbourhood feel like home. To support this, the draft plan includes recommendations for inclusivity and accessibility, community safety, and arts and culture. We encourage you to review the plan to learn more details about the draft policies and guidelines for the Cairnsmore neighbourhood. We hope you take the time to share your feedback at placespeak.com/Cairnsmore. The feedback period will be open until July 31st, 2020. If you have questions, please contact the City of Duncan Development Services by email at developmentservices@duncan.ca or by phone at 250-746-6126. Thank you for helping plan the future of Cairnsmore.